So we are winding down the 2025 NFL season, and we're starting to learn basically what every team is, who's legit and who's not legit. And ESPN has this article where it's talking about basically the 16 most players or coaches or teams under the most pressure in their playoff push or just the end of the season. The team doesn't necessarily have to make it to the playoffs. So I thought this would be a fun article to react to with you guys today. I got some fun videos coming out on the channel. We got this one coming out. I will have my first Sporkle quiz video out on the channel hopefully tomorrow, where I'm going to try to name every offensive player in the NFL. That one's going to be a doozy. And then over the weekend, I'm going to have a mock draft as we are finally going to know what the college football playoffs are going to look like. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I will leave a link to the article down below. Shout out to Bill Barnwell of ESPN who made this article. So the first one we have is Joe Brady of the Buffalo Bills, mentioning that Joe Brady was a potential head coach candidate. He is 36 years old, and last year he took the Bills offense to a whole nother level. And this year, though, their offense has been a little bit lackluster, more so the passing game. They were just fine in the rushing attack against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. Even being without their two top tackles, James Cook is one of the best running backs in the NFL, 100%. They just not really had super consistent wide receiver play. You're probably seeing that Cam Newton, Keon Cole meme edit all over Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So they're mentioning that just kind of the offense has not really been living up to their expectations going into this year. They are playing the Bengals this week as well, one of the worst defenses in the league. We'll see how their offense looks because the Bengals are probably going to score some points now that Joe Burrow is back, which is kind of ironic that they're playing the Bills this week because yes, Joe Brady did develop Joe Burrow into the national champion he was at LSU as the offensive coordinator. So yeah, I would say that Joe Brady has a lot of pressure probably on him going towards the end of the year, just because right now the AFC has never been more wide open. I mean, the Chiefs can still make the playoffs, but they got to take a spot from either the Steelers or the Ravens. But I just think one of those teams get in. So are they going to steal a spot from the Jaguars or Colts, or it could end up being the LA Chargers? Because I do think the Broncos are probably going to win the AFC West at this point, since they already have a win against the Chiefs as well. So if the Bills make it to the playoffs, I don't think it'll be by the division. They could still go through a playoff picture with no Patrick Mahomes, with no Lamar Jackson, and they'd honestly have an excuse or no excuse not to make it to the Super Bowl this year. And they may look for somebody to be have all the blame come down on him. It could end up being Sean McDermott, the head coach, but I think Joe Brady is definitely under some pressure as well. They mentioned here that Bradley Chubb is under a ton of pressure kind of going into what his future can be in the offseason. I mean, yeah, they traded away Jalen Phillips at the deadline. It just really kind of ended up having an overall disappointing year with the Miami Dolphins defensive line, which probably was supposed to be one of their strong suits in a positional group on this team, with Chop Robinson, who had a really encouraging rookie season, has taken a step back this year. Jalen Phillips struggled at the beginning of the year, but kind of turned it up a little bit before the deadline. Kenneth Grant really hasn't been as impactful as a first-round pick either, so they mentioned that Chubb has the ability to earn another $11 million in incentives, and he's currently on pace to earn over $7 million right now. I mean, Chubb was one of the best edge rushers before he tore his ACL, missing all of the 2024 season. I mean, this has definitely been a super disappointing year for the Miami Dolphins. I don't know, when I think of like the guys under the most pressure, Bradley Chubb comes to mind, but they mentioned here him for the Miami Dolphins. Next up, we have Matt Eberflus, the Bears coaching legend for the Dallas Cowboys, their defensive coordinator. I mean, the Cowboys can definitely make a playoff push as well. I am recording this ahead of their Thursday night game against the Detroit Lions, so you guys may already know the result by the time you guys see this video, but they went out and they got Quentin Williams at the deadline. He's been a great addition to this team. They just picked up a win against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning conference champions from last year's season. George Pickens is looking like a top 10 receiver in the NFL. We know how good CeeDee Lamb is. Dak Prescott has been stepping up. The defense is getting healthier. So yeah, this is going to be up to Matt Eberflus because he does have some talent. They got their rookie corner Revel out of East Carolina coming back healthy. Overshown is back healthy. They add Quentin Williams, so there's not that many excuses for Eberflus, especially since they traded away Micah Parsons before the season even started. And I wonder if the Cowboys can end up maybe making a run at the Eagles' money for the division, right? Like they just beat them, so they're split on the year because they started off the season against each other. So we'll see what ends up happening as well. Daniel Jones, I mean, this is a big one, right? So Daniel Jones definitely has some pressure on him right now, because are we thinking that was his first half fraudulent? He's been coming back down to earth a little bit more as of late. He's been turning the ball over more. They went out and they got Sauce Gardner, giving up 2 first-round picks for him at the deadline, kind of giving an indication that we're all in around Daniel Jones and this offense. And they mentioned here that barring something truly unexpected, Jones will be back as the starting quarterback in Indy next year. And the way he's played this year, it's probably going to be a really nice extension. It's actually crazy that people are predicting Alec Pierce to get over $25 million a year, and he just might be like need to be in a new system, a new offense, and this guy could be a wide receiver one in this league. I mean, he has been one of the best deep threats in the league over the last few years. They do have some big free agency decisions to make with Nick Cross and Kwity Paye. So what is that Daniel Jones extension going to look like? He can really make or break maybe $100 million over these next few weeks as well. Will the Colts end up winning the division, or will Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars take it from Daniel Jones? And could this be maybe something a little bit similar to Sam Darnold last year? I still think Sam Darnold got most of what he could have made in the offseason, but he definitely cost himself, I think, a little bit with how it ended in Minnesota, losing to the Lions at the last week of the year, losing to the Rams in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with Daniel Jones here, because he's apparently playing through a fractured fibula, which is not what you want to see whatsoever. They have a great running back that they can rely on in Jonathan Taylor. But yeah, I think there's maybe nobody with more pressure than Daniel Jones right now, just to see if he's actually legit, because he could cost himself a lot of money if he kind of goes back to that Giants Daniel Jones over the rest of the season. They mentioned Mike Evans here because of the 1,000-yard season streak that's going to end most likely this year, and they're mentioning what his contract could look like in 2026. He's reportedly close to practicing for the Bucs after breaking his collarbone in October, and I think he had a concussion, basically the same play. And they gave Godwin an extension in the offseason, or they re-signed him. They drafted Emeka Egbuka. I mean, are they thinking that there's a chance that he could end up leaving Tampa Bay? Or maybe he's just going to ask for that new contract, that 2-year, $44 million that Devontae Adams got. So yeah, I'm sure Tampa Bay, who's still fighting for the division. I know they've not been playing good football as of late. I mean, through the first 6 or so weeks, Baker Mayfield was like an MVP candidate. Doesn't really look like that anymore. He definitely needs to have some healthy offense. They just recently got back Bucky Irving. Hopefully they get back Mike Evans sooner than later. It is unfortunate the streak is most likely coming to an end this year of 1,000 yards. So many years in a row, basically every year since he's been drafted. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Romeo Doubs making this list. Yeah, they just ended up getting back Christian Watson, who kind of looked like their wide receiver one in the game against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. He mentions here that crucially, given their depth at wide receiver after drafting Matthew Golden in the first round, they still have Jaden Reed on their roster, who was kind of the de facto wide receiver one last year, and Christian Watson signed that extension or re-signed with them in the offseason. He mentions that the Packers seem unlikely to re-sign or franchise tag Romeo Doubs, which would allow him to hit free agency unfettered. Doubs probably isn't going to develop into a wide receiver one, but moving from a run-first offense into a more pass-happy attack, there's a chance you could play like a high-end number two on a team if a willing team is ready to commit to him in that sort of role. And I do think Doubs is a little bit underrated as well. I do think he could be a high-end wide receiver too for sure. I mean, the Packers passing attack has kind of been all over the place this season. I feel like the numbers should be better for what the advanced metrics show, because Jordan Love is up there in almost any EPA metric and any advanced quarterback metric this year. But I feel like the Packers offense as a whole has kind of been underwhelming. Not sure if that comes back on the running game, not sure if that comes back on the offensive line, or maybe just offensive coordinator game script. But it will be interesting to see who's kind of like the guy going forward. I assume we're going to see Jaden Reed back, because he did start off the year and then got hurt. Watson's back. Golden's kind of been a little bit disappointing when he's been out there this year. Also has been banged up at times. And maybe Dontavion Wicks is just like the true wide receiver too on this team. Next up, we have Shedeur Sanders. They mentioned that Sanders is already ahead of most other fifth-round rookie quarterbacks by virtue of getting a chance to play. I mean, they traded away Joe Flacco. They traded away Kenny Pickett before the season started. Dylan Gabriel was not really good when he ended up playing, and Shedeur against the Raiders probably looked better than any game Gabriel has played this year, or mostly any game that he's played. And they mentioned, is Sanders an NFL caliber starter? Not so far. The 23-year-old has been below average or worse across the board by just about every measure of quarterback play. I mean, there was some bad throws against the Raiders. I was actually sitting in the end zone at this game in Las Vegas, and there was just a bad interception by Shedeur Sanders. I mean, the Raiders are just an absolute mess as well, but Shedeur did have that dime down the field as well. That was like right in front of me in the end zone where he rolled out to the pocket. We'll see how he looks. Like I said, over the course of the season, it wasn't great against San Francisco, those game conditions. I mean, it's unfair to really put that much pressure on a fifth-round pick in his second career start in a game they were pretty much down most of it in. Shedeur got banged up in that game, but it looks like he's going to start against the Titans. I guess, honestly, if Shedeur can pretty much show that he is better than Dylan Gabriel, I think he's going to be the backup quarterback on this team next year, because I still think Cleveland, unless Shedeur really plays out of his mind to end the year, and you could definitely do that against the Tennessee Titans, I feel like they're going to draft a quarterback. I feel like it's going to be Ty Simpson. I feel like it's going to be Fernando Mendoza or somebody like that. All right, we have Trey Hendrickson here of the Cincinnati Bengals. Things really haven't came together here in 2025 for Hendrickson, who spent much of the offseason holding out or requesting a trade from the Bengals. After agreeing to a short-term deal to return to the team in late August, Hendrickson racked up 4 sacks in 7 games before suffering a hip injury. I mean, yeah, they're kind of comparing him to maybe Joey Bosa in the offseason for $12.5 million. Over the last few years, Hendrickson has been one of the best edge rushers, but this year, it's really not gone up to his expectations, as they mentioned in the article here, because Hendrickson wanted to get over $100 million. I mean, Myles Garrett got extended. TJ Watt got extended. I don't think Hendrickson expected to be like the highest paid edge rusher, but he expected to get paid by the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that decides to pay their guys way too late. They paid Higgins way too late, Jamar Chase way too late. They were basically doing the same thing with Trey Hendrickson. Now, he hasn't really lived up to what he's done over the last few years. I just feel like he's not going to be back in Cincinnati next year. I feel like that relationship has soured way too much. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with Hendrickson, but he would probably become maybe the best. But yeah, he'd probably become the best edge rusher on the market this offseason. K'Lavon Chaisson of the New England Patriots was once a top pick back in that 2020 NFL draft that did feature Joe Burrow in it. He's still only 26 and didn't play much for the stretches of time in Jacksonville. But they mentioned here that he has 6.5 sacks this year, 15 knockdowns, including a pressure pass Orlando Brown Jr. on 4th and game to seal a win over the Bengals. He's got a 5.4 quick pressure rate, which ranks 18th among edge rushers with 150 snaps or more. Yeah, like this could be like a Bryce Huff signing or somebody like that this offseason. He's definitely outplayed his 1-year, $3 million deal. We'll see what he ends up getting paid this offseason. I mean, yeah, no surprise here. JJ McCarthy. I mean, JJ McCarthy has been, unfortunately, like the biggest meme, the biggest punching bag in the NFL over the last few weeks. Like, I'm starting to feel bad for the guy. He kind of did it to himself with the whole 9 meme, but it hasn't really gone to plan. Minnesota took a massive risk letting Daniel Jones out of the door, but more so letting Sam Darnold out of the locker room. The guy that won 14 games for you last year. It just so happened that Detroit was a little bit better, so you didn't get that bye in round 1 of the playoffs, and you had to go up against the Rams. I think Minnesota could have been like Washington or Tampa Bay. They just didn't really get the most favorable matchup in the world. I mean, we saw how bad Max Brosmer was against the Seattle Seahawks, throwing 4 interceptions in that game, including that terrible pick 6 in basically the red zone. I mean, McCarthy has been flat out bad, and you can make an argument he's been the worst quarterback when he's been out there this year and looks so much different and more just kind of frazzled and just rattled overall in that Minnesota Vikings pocket. So much different compared to what Sam Darnold was last year, who's had those issues earlier in his career but looked comfortable under Kevin O'Connell. I do wonder if this pick does not look any better by year's end. Will Kwesi be out as the main decision maker in Minnesota? Like, obviously, Kevin O'Connell isn't going anywhere, and you honestly cannot bring just JJ McCarthy back as like your main guy next year. You need to bring some type of competition similar to what Indianapolis did with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson going into the year. I don't know if this team would go out and trade for Mac Jones, who I feel like would be a great quarterback with Kevin O'Connell, the coach that's got a lot of comparisons to Mac Jones as head coach, and Kyle Shanahan as an offensive guru. But yeah, nobody may have more pressure than JJ McCarthy right now in Minnesota. We have Greg Newsome here of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a surprising trade when he got swapped for Tyson Campbell earlier in the year, but Newsome was going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and Campbell just recently got extended as well. He mentions that Newsome has had an uneven start in Jacksonville, getting torched basically by Jackson Smith-Njigba. Hey, a lot of corners have been torched by JSN this year, and he recently just turned 25, and he was so good earlier in his career. I would hold out on Greg Newsome as well, but if he ends up becoming a free agent and switches teams in the offseason, I would definitely be all over Greg Newsome going forward. Next up, we have Jordan Davis here of the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he's going to have to step up now that Jalen Carter might miss Monday night's game, probably will, and then maybe future games as well. The Eagles picked up Jordan Davis's 5th-year option after their Super Bowl run in 2024. I think the Eagles may be a little bit underwhelmed by Jordan Davis. He's still been a good player, far from like a really bad pick in the first round, but nowhere near, I think, Jalen Carter in terms of impact at the moment. He's playing more than 50% of snaps for the first time as a pro, and Davis is clearly a good player coming off a game in which the Eagles allowed the Bears to run for a whopping 281 yards. Not ideal. I mean, DeAndre Swift looked great in that game. Kyle Monaghan looked great in that game as well. And we'll see what this defense kind of like, or this Eagles defense looks next year with its front 7. I mean, they lose Josh Sweat in the offseason. They lose Milton Williams as well. I mean, Jalen Carter's going to be hurt. We'll see how much the Chargers try to run up on him or on this defense on Monday night. We have Kenneth Walker. I'm sure Kenneth Walker fantasy owners, you guys have not been happy this year with the Zach Charbonnet goal line touches. Is there a Walker breakout coming? I do feel like, yeah, Walker was one of the more dominant running backs in college football when he was at Michigan State, and he was a second-round draft pick in that class with Breece Hall. And I feel like, yeah, Walker hasn't really broken out to being like a true elite running back in this league. Like, he's never really been in that combo with like Jonathan Taylor. I think like James Cook has been better, obviously, than Kenneth Walker this year. He's not really ever been close to Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry over time. And he is a pending free agent at the end of the year. Now, I expect like Breece Hall to get tagged since the Jets didn't trade him at the deadline. I wonder if Walker would end up getting tagged as well, but they have Zach Charbonnet going forward. I just don't know if that's going to end up happening, or Walker could just leave teams in the offseason. And the last person here, second, or we have a couple more, I think. Jonathan Ganon of the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, you could put Ganon in here for sure. Like, will Jonathan Ganon be let go at the end of the year? It's been really disappointing this season for Kyler Murray, who has not looked like the franchise quarterback. I'm going to assume Kyler Murray is hurt, but it felt weird that he went on an IR out of nowhere, and Jacoby Brissett has been throwing the ball like 55 times a game, and we've seen Michael Wilson have a career game or two with Arizona. Marvin's looked solid with Jacoby Brissett. They haven't really won any games. I do wonder if this team is in a spot to draft a quarterback. They will. I wonder if this is going to be a completely new regime at the end of the year. Will we see Jonathan Gannon let go? And if so, that could maybe be the it for Kyler Murray in Arizona if like ownership is just kind of sick and tired of what it's been over the last few years, just thinking it's going to go in the right direction. It really hasn't since they lost to the Rams in that playoff game in the 2021 season. Next up here, and then next up we have Matthew Stafford, which is interesting as well. Stafford has already made more than $408 million as a pro. So while he might hold out for a new deal yet again in 2026, he's already made enough money for several lifetimes. Yeah, I would say several lifetimes, might be underestimating a little bit, but Stafford may end up winning MVP this year. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer for sure. Like, he's got the longevity, which I feel like we haven't seen from too many quarterbacks as of late. Like, he's playing longer than like a Drew Brees, like a Ben Roethlisberger, or will play longer than those guys in their careers. I don't know if he'll hit like Brady or Aaron Rodgers status, but he could definitely win the Super Bowl this year. He could win MVP. Last week hurt it a little bit when they lost to Carolina and Drake May played good in primetime against the New York Giants. So I would say Drake May is maybe the favorite right now. But yeah, Stafford could definitely add an MVP to his resume, something he doesn't have. And yeah, like, I don't think he really needs to do much more to enter the Hall of Fame. I think he will eventually get there since he won that Super Bowl with the Rams in that aforementioned 2021 season. Next up, we have Quentin Johnston here, who got off to a great start. Fantasy owners were loving him at the start of the year, but Herbert has spread the ball to a little bit of Ladd McConkey, mostly Ladd McConkey as of late, but Keenan Allen as well this year. And yeah, Quentin Johnston, I mean, is kind of going back to what we thought he was, maybe going into the year. I don't think that Johnston is bad. Has he given you the production of a first-round pick? I mean, when you look at the other guys around him, like Zay Flowers is maybe better, Addison is maybe better, but I don't know if they're that much more productive than Quentin Johnston. Obviously, JSN looks like the most productive out of that foursome that went right back to back to back to back against each other, but JSN went first, so none of these teams could have taken JSN. Yeah, you could have traded up for JSN as well. I don't think that he will be back if they do decide to get rid of him just because he's got that first round pick money and he does have one more year. I doubt he gets his fifth year option picked up. I wonder if they'll go a little bit to like Trey Harris, who they drafted in last year's draft as well. I think this team likes to run the ball a ton. I think that's going to be their identity next year. Also, next up, we have Nate Hobbs here of the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I talked about Nate Hobbs a couple weeks ago in my like 15 most disappointing player list this year. I mean, the Packers free agency class has kind of been all over the place at times. Aaron Banks, I would say, hasn't been great this year, but he's also battled injuries. He was kind of like a rotational guard with the 49ers last year, and Nate Hobbs is making a decent amount of money as well. It mentions that all of Hobbs' $9.1 million compensation in 2026 is actually non-guaranteed. The Packers could choose to treat their decision to sign him as a mistake and go in another direction just after 1 year. Maybe when in doubt, don't sign a Raiders corner. So yeah, that is gonna be for me. I think like the guys the most out of this that I think have the most pressure in terms of like quarterback play. Yeah, Daniel Jones, I would say, has a lot of pressure towards the end of the year. I mean, that may be it for Kyler Murray in Arizona, so I'm not really sure how that's gonna look moving forward. I think there's a little bit of pressure on Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes as well. Can they they, well, I guess for Mahomes, lead them into the playoffs? And Josh Allen, obviously, can they make it to the Super Bowl? JJ McCarthy is going to have a lot of pressure on him as well going forward. I like the Kenneth Walker shout at the running back position. And then I would say for some head coaches that could potentially be on the hot seat towards the end of the year, with Todd Bowles of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be on the hot seat if they end up losing their spot at the top of the NFC South. Would Raheem Morris end up being let go from the Atlanta Falcons? It hurts this year that they do not own their first round pick. We talked about Jonathan Gannon. I mean, we still have to see what happens with Mike McDaniel this year. We got to see what happens with Pete Carroll in his first year. Will Kevin Stefanski be let go at the end of the year? Some people out of Kansas City maybe don't want Andy Reid back as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams to keep an eye on this year to see if their head coach gets let go at the end of the year. Let me know who you think maybe has the most pressure towards the end of the NFL season. If you did enjoy, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch y'all in that Sporkle quiz video, which should be next. Peace.